Good morning.
iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Pro are our most advanced phones.
iPhone 11 Pro Max are just beyond incredible.
Now I know what you're thinking, and yes, the iPhone 11 Pro Max was last year's phone model, but I'm going somewhere with this, so hang tight and let me explain. Every year, Apple releases a new phone, and that is supposed to be their latest and greatest iPhone that they've ever made. And I think on some categories, Apple did deliver on this. However, I think that the iPhone 11 Pro Max is still the best iPhone they have ever made. Alright, so I'm not going to go over any of the specifications in detail because I don't really think that matters or it would really benefit you in this video, but I am going to quickly cover some of the upgrades and then we'll take a deeper dive into what really is noticeable in the day-to-day usage. And basically from these phones, what you can expect is a larger screen, upgraded cameras, and more RAM. Those are three big things that I think are there. And also there is a 5G support now. Now with 5G, it's not a big deal because it's not really fully compatible for everyone, where you're not going to get it everywhere, and it's not as fast as what you might see advertised when it's like 1 GB per second, and you're not going to see that for a while, so don't let 5G be a deciding factor for you. Now there's also one downgrade I want to note before we take the deeper dive, and that is going to be the battery size. The battery size was actually reduced, and we'll talk about how that affects your usage later on. Battery life plays a huge deciding factor when I'm trying to pick my next device. And even though the 12 Pro Max does have the best battery life out of all the iPhone 12 models, it still does not compete with the 11 Pro Max. And even though the iPhone XR still had worse battery life than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, I didn't feel like it was a crazy substantial upgrade from the XR. And this partly comes down to what my girlfriend has experienced with the 11 Pro Max. And I always constantly ask her, what's your battery at? And after she records some videos for TikTok or for Instagram and takes pictures and whatnot, I ask her, what is your battery at? And I constantly have done this throughout the year she's had the phone. And from what I've seen, the 11 Pro Max has absolutely outstanding battery life. And when I got the 12 Pro Max, it just felt off. It didn't feel like it was the same as the 11 Pro Max. And after she used it for about 5 or 6 days, then she noticed the same thing as well. And we both ended up returning our devices. And if you want to know the exact reasons why, then let me know down in the comments and I'll make a separate video on that entirely. But when it comes to battery life, I think one of the components to that, aside from the smaller battery size, is that they did increase the screen size. And even though the processor in the phone is more efficient than last year, it still doesn't make up for what it lost. On the other hand, something that took a huge step forward is performance. It is extremely noticeable when you're using different applications and you're switching between them because of the 6 GB of RAM. Apps don't need to refresh as much as before. And on the iPhone XR, I do have this problem a decent amount, especially if I'm doing a lot on my phone and maybe some more power intensive tasks, like maybe watching YouTube, going to my emails while it's refreshing and pulling maybe like 10 different email accounts, and then maybe LumaFusion and Safari, some like that kind of workflow. It does tie up the RAM a bit and it will cause more apps to refresh. With this 6 GB of RAM, you don't have to worry about that, and everything is just super snappy. When you swipe through the home screen, when you open it up an app and you go home, just everything is super smooth, super buttery, and you don't have to worry about performance at all. Now I don't game, so I can't speak on gaming with the device, but I am assuming that it's not going to be any slouch and it would just be a complete beast as it has been for my other usage. And I mainly use LumaFusion for my video editing on the iPhone and on the iPad. And with those, I was just making some quick, 30 seconds to a minute long videos for TikTok, just back to back, pumping them out to post. And it works perfectly fine. There is no slowdowns, and basically any use that I had the phone, that sometimes my iPhone XR would slow down for, this did not slow down at all, and it was just an absolute beast all around. One thing that the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the XR had is that the screens were kind of controversial in a way before launch, at least for the tech heads. And this is because they didn't have 120 hertz refresh rate on the screen, which basically means things would be extra smooth. And I don't think many people will miss this, and I struggle to notice it even though I have a iPad Pro that has that faster screen refresh rate. But overall, the average user, especially an iPhone user, is not going to notice it. And also what you will notice is that it does feel extra smooth when you're using the device, and it seems like it's not just the regular 60 hertz display. And I'm glad they didn't add the 120 hertz because that would have consumed more battery life on a phone that seems like it's struggling to find its place with battery life. As far as the screen and its color reproduction and everything, it is absolutely amazing. It is super bright and you can see it outdoors no problem, and the colors are super rich. And it's just a big massive display, and it's great for content consumption, and that was probably one of my favorite things while using the device, as well as having the LED screen, because when you see colors, they're more contrasty, they're more vibrant. Now when I was using the device and I was staring at the screen, I couldn't help but notice something that just felt too familiar. It didn't feel new enough for me when I was using the device, and that partly comes down to the notch. I understand why it's there, and I understand it needs to be there for Face ID, but I think that this would have been a great time to maybe trim down the notch a bit and also add Touch ID, because now that we're wearing masks every day, having Face ID is quite annoying. Even though we're supposed to stay inside a lot, while I'm out at work and I need to use my phone for certain things, it does get annoying because I can't take my face mask off and then I have to type in the PIN, and there's a little bit of a delay. And when you have to do this over and over and over again, it does get super annoying. Now, as for the ceramic shield that they're touting with the phone display and how it's supposed to be stronger, basically I would suggest that you don't believe any of that and test it out, because one thing that we know about glass is that it does break, and I basically just recommend slapping a screen protector on the phone and making sure you prevent a expensive headache later on down the road if you drop and break the device. Arguably the biggest change with the iPhone 12 Pro Max is the new flat edges that have come back from the old iPhone models. And basically what this does is it really makes the phone feel new, and it feels a lot more comfortable to hold in the hand. And I think it just overall gives it just the newness it needs, because in other areas it doesn't feel new enough for me. And Apple's really good at refining some of these small details to make a older design feel really new and look really new, and that's what they did with these phone models and the flat edges. On top of the flat edges, what they've also done to make the phone feel more new is add some different color options. Now the gold, I know gold has been there, but they've refined it a bit and it looks really nice. It looks extremely elegant, and the gold is a brighter gold and a cream color on the back, and I feel it looks more like jewelry. So if you didn't like the color last year, I highly suggest you look at the new color in person this year. On top of that, they have the Pacific blue, which is my favorite, and I've always wished for a navy looking blue that for the iPhones, and they did that with the Pacific blue, and especially with the stainless edges, it looks absolutely fine. So check it out, it's amazing. For those of you wondering why the iPhones have stainless steel edges, it's for, I think, two reasons. One, it ups the bougie factor on the phone. It makes it look more fancy and high end. On top of that, it also is more sturdy. So if you drop the phone, it is more resistant to damage than aluminum is. If you're enjoying this content so far, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does help me out. And smash that like button down below, as it does help me out a ton. So I know many of you are probably wondering about the camera, and that's maybe why you're tuning into this video. And when it comes to the camera, I can say that coming from the iPhone XR, it is a huge upgrade. Now, if you're coming from the 11 Pro Max, it's not a crazy upgrade. The only upgrade you're gonna get is mainly in low light, and also you can go 2.5 times zoom, and that camera is not the best camera anyway. So I don't really see the point in the 2.5 times zoom. I think 2 times zoom would have been perfect. And overall, if you're coming from last year's models, the camera is not a good enough reason to upgrade. Now, the biggest change that you're going to notice with the new camera systems is a night mode. Because the phone cameras have a larger sensor, it can take a lot better photos in low light and also when you're using night mode. Now, one of the other noticeable features you're gonna see with the camera system on the 12 Pro Max is if you take a lot of video, you will notice that the stabilization looks a little different. It looks a little smoother and it looks almost like those camera gimbals that you see, and how smooth it is and how it just seems like it glides through the air. And this is because they stabilize the sensor instead of the optics of the camera system, and that's what gives us this extra smooth effect. And I think it looks really nice, but at the same time it is not a big enough upgrade to upgrade from last year's model. If it's for Instagram, if it's for TikTok, the videos from the last year's camera and the photos are gonna look perfectly fine and will be basically perfect for whatever your use case is. Oh yeah, and there's also LiDAR, and basically if me forgetting about it doesn't speak to the point enough, basically with this feature, it's just not fully baked in yet. I think it just needs to develop a little bit more. There needs to be more apps to take advantage of it, and I think Apple implementing it into the phones gives them more data to improve it in the future, and also maybe to create their own apps that can really take advantage of it. There's also MagSafe with the new phones, and I'm not going to touch on this for a very long time, partly because it's not that big of a deal. Sure, it is a cool new way to accessorize your phone, and maybe the MagSafe charger is cool to you, but they've had some issues with that because the phone heats up, and also with the cases and stuff like that that kind of take advantage of it. It just gives you some cool animations, but aside from that, not really feature upgrades for you. So MagSafe, don't let that be a big deciding factor as well, and I would suggest that you don't get the MagSafe charger. Now overall, I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max is a victim of this year. I think Apple may have been able to do more with this device if they didn't have to deal with some of the obstacles they had to face because of what's going on this year. But at the end of the day, my final judgment on the iPhone 12 lineup is that it's worth passing on. Now, I'm not considering the fact that there are carrier deals and you can possibly get these devices for free or for huge discounts. If you're paying full price for the phone, I think you should just skip on this device and maybe get a used iPhone 11 Pro Max if you're interested in the 12 Pro Max, but maybe don't want to spend the full price for the device. Plus, it's important to note that going into next year, Apple doesn't have the obstacles it had to face this year, and maybe they can make a more substantial upgrade than they did with the 12 Pro Max. But at the end of the day, what you should take home is that the 11 Pro Max is going to be better than the 12 Pro Max. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the phone and whether you picked it up or not. I'd love to know your input on the device. And let me know if you've been one of those people that went from the 11 Pro Max to the 12 Pro Max, and let me know your experience because it might vary from my experience and my girlfriend's experience. So until next time, don't forget to take it easy with some tea, and I'll see you guys in the next one.